on asharenu. We're back in here once again. Let's get it in. So today we want to make sure everything is good. We want to give a few tests, make sure people are able to call in, things of this nature. We're just going to kick back, take it easy, make sure everything is working correctly, and we get to it. What's up, Spino? What's up, Spino? What's the deal? What's up, Michael? What's up? What's up, G-Star? Let me turn this down. All right, hopefully everybody is good. All right, let me shout everybody up. What's up, Michael? What's up, G-Star? What's up, Lover by Nature? What's up, Samsara? What's up, Kiwi Goddess, Leah? What's good, everybody? All right, so we're going to get this started now. So again, this is just a little test to make sure everything is working properly, making sure everything is working correctly. Now, the purpose of the score talk, so for those who may not understand, for those just now joining, the purpose of the score talk, I guess it would be fitting for y'all to see me speak my piece, right? So the purpose of the score talk is to basically establish, the dark arts, the black arts, the darker elements of life, and explore those deeper, greater mysteries, that are not spoken about in the public eye, spoken about or seen in the public eye, right? For example, and again, this is why I want to show the altar. A lot of this imagery is forbidden and taboo. A lot of this imagery is forbidden and taboo. Somebody walk in and they see things like this, they may feel a certain type of way. Nonetheless, everything is strategic. Everything is based on strategy. We set up our altars like we set up our chess boards. So we see, let me make sure y'all can see. We set it up just like we set up a chessboard. Meaning, it's not for us to figure out why war happens. It's not for us to try to figure out who's doing what. All we know is war, is necessary. So therefore, we have to set up our board. We have to govern ourselves. Self-reliance. So therefore, we set up our board, we set up our altars. the same way we set up a chessboard to make plays. So these things are making plays for us on the other side. Now, let me draw a couple cards just to further reiterate my point. We're going to draw a couple cards, and I definitely would like someone to call in. I'm going to leave the link. Well, not the link. I'm going to leave the phone number, or I'll just say the phone number, and we'll make sure that the calls work. But before we get into that, we're going to shuffle up a little bit. We'll shuffle up the deck, and we'll get to that in just a second. So let me see if we got something else here. So we're going to shuffle up the deck. 1 second here. We'll pull a couple cards and we'll get started. So let me turn this down.
A Dirty Glove mixtape exclusive. I put the dope in the spot. I'm in the kitchen with pies. Fake faded ends.
All right, we're going to cut the deck. So let's see what comes up. First card, Lust. Let me turn this down a second, just a bit. So the first card that's coming up for the day is Lust. Let me give you a close look. Just put both hands here so you can clearly see what's going on. You can clearly see the illustration. We understand that lust represents the creative sexual force. And depending on how this energy is used will determine the results of said act. In other words, we understand the foundation of all magical acts, what we consider magic, what we consider otherworldly, what we consider to be spiritual, are all acts of creativity and sexuality redirected towards a certain purpose. So that same sexual force, that same lust energy being directed into the sexual acts is being redirected into, let's just say for this particular example, her whole plight is to control the creation process at the palm of her hand. You see, with one hand, she holds the beast of abomination, all things that are forbidden and taboo. All things forbidden and taboo, she has tamed and are under her command and charm. So because she has the taboo and the forbidden under her command and under her charm, she's thus able to harness the creative and sexual forces in the other palm of her hand and therefore direct her will and be able to penetrate through physical matter. In other words, she is able to influence and alter reality, shape and mold reality according to her will, because she has been able to wield the forbidden and the taboo. So all things forbidden, all things taboo, she is wielding. She becomes the master of abomination. Next. The next card that come up is Truth, the Four of Swords. Whenever we're dealing with the four, we're dealing with the four elements: fire, water, air, earth, which represents a harmonization of the elements. So the Four of Swords, we know when we deal with the swords are dealing with the mental plane. So at this point in the mental process, there is a truce going on between the elements. Because we know when we deal with the suit of swords, it deals with a lot of mental anguish. The swords is not necessarily the best suit when it comes to positive energy, because there's a lot of mental things going on. We see that this is Jupiter expressing itself through Libra. So the planet of wisdom, the planet of expansion being expressed through Libra, and we know Libra is the ultimate mentalist. Libra being the ultimate mentalist, being a connector of the zodiac. Libra represents connections, friendships, partnerships, business relationships, so on and so forth. So this represents a truce between all elemental forces. The element of fire, you can say the tongue. The tongue is matching up with the emotion, the water. Your words are communicating how you feel. And how you feel is based on your thoughts. And when you piece these things together, your thoughts, your emotions, and your desires, the manifestation of those three attributes is the earth element, or basically the physical manifestation of matter, carbon. So this represents all four elements mentally, the eternal realm. The three eternal elements and the outer earth element is working together harmoniously. There's a truce between the elemental forces. Right? Now we have a four of wands. So once again, we see the four. But this time it's being expressed in the attributes of wands, which represents completion. When we deal with the suit of wands, we're dealing with the desires. So we see that the flames have become a wheel. In other words, you can say this represents a person that has been able to build and maintain a fire. So not only did you gather the necessary resources to build the fire, you are maintaining the fire, which is creating a wheel-like illusion or motion. So this is fire in motion in the shape and form of a wheel. So this is fire being correctly harnessed. And again, we're talking about that creative sexual force. So once again, this is illustrating. This can be another example of a magical circle, cast in magical circles to protect and amplify your energy. So that creative and sexual force is being harnessed in the form of a wheel. And that wheel, it is animating the wheel. That desire animates the will, and from that desire, the animation leads to completion, again, through the harmonization of the four elemental forces. So that sexual creative force is being properly redirected in a constructive manner, therefore opening up the planes to various dimensions. The sexual creative act is being used as a tool for divination to have spiritual insight, therefore giving you the ability to have a complete holistic existence, physically, mentally, spiritually, and on a soul level. Let's pull one more card. What else we got? And once again, we got more fire here. This represents pure fire, the Aeon. Horus seated on the throne. So once again, we see the process of birth coming. Representing the process of birth and manifestation on the physical plane in the form of Horus on the throne, manifestation on the celestial plane in the form of Nut. You see the celestial woman on top, you see the prince on the throne, and you also see the birth of fire. Remember, fire representing the tongue. He is wielding the scepter of power. He has control over his tongue. When you have control over your tongue, it makes it a lot easier to have control over the sexual creative forces. That's also what's represented by him being seated on the throne. Him being seated on the throne, him being in a passive position, represents him having mastery over not only his masculine nature, but also his feminine nature. He is able to sit and be receptive to the elemental influences. So he is seated, being receptive, and he is wielding the scepter of power, wielding fire in his hands. He has the power of pure fire in his hands, and he's able to manipulate the Aeon. So this represents cosmic manipulation to bring in and usher in a new energy, a new age, a new Aeon. So with the Him wielding the scepter of power is ushering in a new aeon. Once again, the correct harmonization of the creative and sexual force is able to usher in a new aeon. In this example, it represents a new shift in consciousness. Your ability to have a shift in consciousness, which will place you in the new aeon. Alright? So there we go. So we'll just draw one more bonus card. We'll do a bonus card. And there we go. The bonus card is the star, which represents the pure energy of Aquarius. The manipulation of the celestial plane. So she is manipulating the ethers and creating diamonds. The carbon, the manipulation of carbon. Taking the ether through the magical process, creating diamonds. Aquarius also represents the revolutionary spirit. Aquarius also represents the ushering in of a new energy, of a new wave, futuristic thinking. Aquarius represents futuristic thinking, to destroy the chains on the mental brain. Because Aquarius is an air sign, so it's dealing with thinking, to release the mental blockages through revolution. So although she represents air, there's also an element of fire, etheric fire, in the form of carbon. Etheric fire in the form of carbon, and through this manipulation of carbon, she is able to manifest diamonds. So she represents the manipulation of the sexual and creative force on a celestial level. So we're seeing this energy manifest on various levels. So once again, this pure lust, this pure creative sexual force, through the harnessing of the abominations, through the harnessing of the forbidden, the forbidden and the taboo, the dark and the black arts, through the harmonization of the dark and black arts, you are able to wield the power of creation in the palm of your hand. This allows a truce to be forged between all four of the elements, being able to harmonize your thinking, so your thinking is in alignment with the creative and the sexual force. So this is basically the mental merging with the lust being transmuted by the mental, creating a truce inside of self, which is creating a necessary playing field for completion to take place. We see that represents Venus being expressed through Aries. Venus, the planet of love, being expressed through Aries, which is the spark of new life. So Venus in Aries represents the spark of new life. The spark of this lust has been completely transmuted into a magical formula. The lust has been transmuted into a magical formula, and through that magical formula, you are able to achieve completion in your desires. Completion of the desires gives birth to the new aeon, gives you a shift of consciousness. The completion of those desires give birth to a new level of consciousness on the celestial plane. So you are seated on the throne on the earthly plane, giving you access to the celestial plane. Timing. Lastly, the star gives us insight into that celestial plane, which is just her manipulating the etheric forces and creating diamonds, the most valuable resources we have physically. So through the etheric manipulation, meaning she represents our internal resources. So we are going from the external resources all the way to the internal resources. Remember, she represents Aquarius, the spirit of revolution, the spirit of the new age, being able to do things that are impossible or that we thought were impossible, such as manipulating ether into physical manifestations. The best of the best, the highest of the high. So she represents the purity in the etheric substance. So there we go. So just to give y'all a feel of the skull talk, giving y'all some visuals of the skull talk, just giving you examples of the energies. that's taking place at this time. We got the two contrasts here. We got the dark mixing with the light. We got the coffin here, which represents death of the old and birth of the new. That's why we have the rose. We have the skull, but we have the rose representing new life. The death of the old giving birth to the new. Again, we have the two roses right here in the color of black and purple representing Anubis. We also have the owl here, which represents opener of the way. So we have the crossroads. It's like this to represent the crossroads. These are guardians of the crossroads. We also have here the Sirius dog. The dog of Sirius, the dog star. So he's right out front, creating an opening to the Sirius constellation. And again, we have further energy from the cat. You can say which is channeling the energy of Leo. And we have the witch's home. And she has a graveyard. Necromancy, communication with the dead. Right? So just giving, of course, the bell to raise the vibration of whatever frequency you're in. So this, we're just giving a couple examples. So there we go. So when you lift this up, all right, so what I want to do is I want somebody to attempt to call in. Let me turn this music off, because I want to make sure that when people call in, it doesn't stop the live feed. So before we get out of here, who wants to be the lucky caller? Well, let me shout out everybody. What's up, Phoenix Rising? What's up, Rob? What's up, Moon Spirit? What's up, 305 Capricorn? What's up, Yezer? What's up, Sandy? What's up, Trust Self? Let me see, I think. What's up, Profoundly Dignified? Can you show your altar and what each statue symbolizes? Yeah, that's pretty much what I did. So you had wrote this before I did that. So that's what we just went through. What's up, W Woods? Wish your mother Woods. Yeah, wish your mother Woods. Oh, that's how you say it. Okay, wish your mother Woods. What's up? What's up? What's up, Lower X? What's up, what is this? Niger 3 Glorious, however you say that. So definitely, I want somebody attempt to call in so that we can see if we hear your voice, so that from this point on, we'll begin to be able to have conversations. So you'll be able to call in, you know, ask your questions, whatever, you know, on a more personal level for those who wants to be the lucky caller. But in the meantime, while y'all are making up your minds, I'll give you the number. Let me see. Let me see if I can put the number in the chat. So give me 1 second. So we actually put the camera down. So while y'all making up your mind, let me see if I can drop the number in the chat, and I'll just give you more visuals of the altar. So give me 1 second here. Let's make sure we do this right. Again, we just trying to add new dimensions to the live stream. So give me 1 second. I'm going to drop the number in the chat. Let me see. Make sure everything is good. So let me just lay out the cards for you one more time. For those who want to study. Okay. 1 second. Okay. All right, there we go. So there's a number. I'm guess I'm using someone. Of course, I'm using another phone. So whatever that's their login. This Adrian thinking and designing. So there's that number. So definitely hit that number up for those who want to test out the calls. But other than that, definitely get some insight into the cards. Definitely this is the introduction into the skull talk, and we're going to be going further and further into the mysteries. Let me see. Also, I wanted to show you this. We got the witch's brew. All right, with the some little herbals in there. Whatever. So, we're just doing little things. We also have a chemical mixture here. This is water mixed with cayenne pepper or cayenne pepper, however you say it. To bring in the energy of Mars. We're bringing in the energy of lavender. We got some lavender. We're bringing in the energy of cinnamon. Bringing in the energy of cinnamon, which is also Mars. That's why we also have the matches with the red tips, further representing Mars. And of course, we have lighters representing iron. This represents iron. And we also have a grinder in here, further representing iron. And iron correlates again with the energy of Mars. So we definitely, this is very a warrior-like energy. Very warlike energy. And lastly, for those who didn't see this last time, we got the psychedelic vision. The skull with the third eye illuminated and several points of the brain illuminated. The illumination of the memory and the mind. So again, we're just giving examples. So this setup is definitely bringing in not only the energy of Scorpio, but also the energy of Mars. So we channeling the zodiac Scorpio as well as the planet Mars, right? So just giving further examples. Let me see. Okay. So let me put these cards down. So I definitely encourage everyone, to have some type of altar for yourself to represent your thoughts, because all this represents thoughts just laid out. It's physical manifestations of thoughts. To be able to open up portals, to have certain connections, so on and so forth. So all this is physical manifestations of thoughts. So that I don't have to keep these things in my mind. I can keep my mind clear and receptive to wisdom, because the thoughts are being represented by these material things. So I don't have to keep these things in my head. They all have an outward expression now. And I can essentially charge them with my energy signature and give these things life. And we all can do these same things in our own way. We give these things life. All matter can be programmed and reprogrammed and given life, so that it becomes a vessel for you or a tool for you to work on the other side. So, all right. So hopefully that makes sense. What's up, Kush Goddess? So, unless anybody has any questions, I definitely appreciate everybody for tuning in. We're going to get up out of here. So, give everybody a few minutes to ask any questions. Yeah, 702-518-959-558. Yeah, definitely. So if you dial that number, I should be receiving a call. But again, you know, this is just the first time. So nonetheless, you know, whenever we get to it, this is just the first phase. This is just a little video test. You know, we're just laying down the format, giving everybody a idea of where we're going from here. All right. So till then, I appreciate everybody for tuning in, watching. Hopefully this inspires you to, you know, be on your job. You know what I mean? Putting in that work. You know what I mean? Set up your chessboard. You know, and be a warrior. So salute to everybody. I'll get back to y'all pretty soon. One.